Picture a pillar of the community, church president, dedicated father, responsible citizen. He lives an ordinary life in a quiet American town, seemingly beyond reproach. But this man harbors a terrifying secret. He's a sadistic serial killer who stalked, tortured, and murdered innocent people for decades, all while taunting police with chilling letters. This is the horrifying double life of Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer. Today, we're going to unravel the story of Dennis Rader, the man who called himself BTK, an acronym for his chilling MO, bind, torture, kill. We'll explore his meticulously crafted normal life, the horrifying methods of his crimes, his bizarre communication with authorities, the decades-long hunt to unmask him, and the fateful mistake that finally brought him down. It's a story that proves the most monstrous evil can wear the most innocent disguise. Dennis Lynn Rader was born on March 9, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas, the eldest of 4 sons. He grew up in Wichita. While outwardly appearing normal, unsettling signs emerged from a young age. There were reports of him torturing and hanging small animals, a classic early indicator of severe psychological issues. As he grew older, Rader reportedly developed sadistic sexual fantasies involving bondage and torture. He attended Kansas Wesleyan University briefly before dropping out. From 1966 to 1970, he served in the United U.S. Air Force, reaching the rank of Staff Sergeant. Upon his discharge, he returned to Wichita, Kansas. In 1971, Dennis Rader married Paula Dietz, and they would go on to have 2 children, Carrie and Brian. To all appearances, he was a regular family man. He held various jobs, including working for ADT Security Services installing alarms, ironically for people seeking protection from criminals, and later as a compliance officer and dog catcher for Park City, Kansas. He was active in his church, even serving as president of the church council, and was a Cub Scout leader. He cultivated a meticulous, almost rigid, public persona. Behind the facade of suburban normalcy, Rader's dark fantasies intensified. He was obsessed with control, bondage, and the suffering of others. He engaged in voyeurism, spying on neighbors, and practiced autoerotic asphyxiation and cross-dressing, often with stolen women's underwear, to fulfill his perverse desires. These are not just fleeting thoughts. They were elaborate, deeply ingrained obsessions. It's been reported that Rader had a keen interest in other serial killers, reading extensively about them. He studied their methods, their mistakes, and their interactions with the police and media. He dreamed of becoming a notorious killer himself, meticulously planning his projects long before they were carried out. The line between fantasy and reality blurred, and in 1974, Dennis Rader's dark impulses manifested in horrifying violence. The control he craved in his private life would now be exercised over innocent victims. The quiet family man was about to unleash a reign of terror on Wichita. On January 15th, 1974, the nightmare began. Dennis Rader entered the home of the Otero family in Wichita, Kansas. Joseph, Julie, and their 2 youngest children, 11-year-old Josephine and 9-year-old Joey, were home. Rader, at gunpoint, forced the family into a bedroom, where he bound them with rope he had brought. He then strangled Joseph and Julie and suffocated Joey with a plastic bag. He led Josephine to the basement, where he sexually assaulted and then hanged her, masturbating as she died. He took souvenirs, a watch and a radio, from the home. The 3 older Otero children, returning from school, discovered the horrific scene. This brutal quadruple murder shocked Wichita, setting off a frantic, but initially fruitless, investigation. The sheer savagery and the fact it was an entire family were unprecedented. Months later, Rader, reveling in the attention and control, would send an anonymous letter to the Wichita Eagle newspaper, taking credit for the Otero murders and promising more. He signed it with the moniker that would haunt the city for decades, BTK, an acronym for his chilling MO, bind, torture, kill. In the years that followed, BTK continued his attacks, typically targeting women in their homes. His methods remained consistent. He would stalk his victims, often cut phone lines, break into their residences, then bind, torture, and strangle them, sometimes with items found in their own homes. He often took trophies like underwear, driver's licenses, or personal items to relive his crimes. What set Rader apart was his insatiable need for recognition and control. He regularly sent taunting letters, packages, and even puzzles to local media outlets and police, detailing his crimes, expressing his perverse fantasies, and demanding recognition. He would go dormant for years, only to resurface with new communications, rekindling the terror and proving he was still out there. Wichita was paralyzed by fear. Residents installed more security systems, ironically, sometimes from Rader's own company, ADT. Women walked in groups, checked their doors and windows constantly. Every unfamiliar face, every unusual sound, stoked the pervasive anxiety. The BTK Killer became a chilling legend, a phantom menace that police seemed unable to catch. Between 1974 and 1991, Rader claimed at least 10 confirmed victims, including Catherine Bright, 1974, Shirley Vian and her 2 young children, 1977, Nancy Fox, 1977, Maureen Hedge, 1985, Vicki Weggerl, 1986, and Dolores Davis, 1991. Many of these bodies were found in remote areas, and some were never recovered until his confessions. In 2023, authorities also named him as a prime suspect in 2 other cold cases from 1976 and 1990. For decades, the BTK case remained one of America's most perplexing cold cases. Law enforcement agencies struggled to connect the dots. Rader was meticulous, leaving little direct forensic evidence at his crime scenes. The communications he sent were often vague enough to avoid direct identification, yet detailed enough to prove he was the killer. After 1991, BTK seemingly vanished. The communications stopped and the murders ceased. Investigators theorized he had died, was incarcerated for another crime, or had simply moved on. The case went cold, but the memory of the terror never faded in Wichita. Then, in 2004, the unthinkable happened. After 13 years of silence, BTK reemerged, sending a new series of letters and packages to local media, including a driver's license he stole from one of his victims. His narcissism and hunger for attention had finally become too great to contain. In a series of increasingly risky communications, Rader asked police if a floppy disk could be traced. Police, playing into his ego, replied through the media that it would be safe if the disk was used to send files from a disposable camera. Rader, confident in his anonymity, fell for the bait. He sent a floppy disk containing a deleted Microsoft Word document. Unbeknownst to him, metadata on the document had not been fully erased, revealing the document had been created by Dennis at the Christ Lutheran Church. This crucial piece of digital evidence, combined with DNA samples discreetly collected from Rader's daughter and matched to crime scene evidence, finally allowed law enforcement to identify their suspect. The man who had terrorized Wichita for 3 decades was Dennis Rader, the church council president, the Cub Scout leader, the dog catcher. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested near his home in Park City, Kansas. The news sent shockwaves through the community. No one, not his family, his friends, or his colleagues, could reconcile the image of the kind, ordinary man they knew with a monstrous BTK killer. Once apprehended, Rader, still driven by his need for control and recognition, began to confess. In agonizing detail, he described his crimes to investigators, reliving his methods of binding, torturing, and killing. He showed no remorse, often speaking of his victims as mere objects in his perverse fantasies. Dennis Rader pleaded guilty to all 10 murders in June 2005. Due to the absence of the death penalty in Kansas at the time of his crimes, he received 10 consecutive life sentences, a minimum of 175 years, without the possibility of parole. His detailed, emotionless confessions in court were a chilling testament to his psychopathy. The revelation shattered Rader's family. His wife, Paula, immediately filed for divorce, stating she could not live with the man who had committed such atrocities. His children, particularly his daughter Carrie Rawson, have spoken publicly about the devastating trauma of discovering their beloved father was a monster. Dennis Rader's case profoundly impacted criminal investigations, especially in the realm of digital forensics. His capture, after decades of eluding authorities, demonstrated the power of new technologies and the persistence of law enforcement. But perhaps more than any other serial killer, BTK left behind a chilling message that true evil can hide in the most mundane, unsuspecting places, operating in plain sight for years, an ordinary man living an extraordinary, horrific double life. What aspect of Dennis Rader's twisted double life do you find most disturbing? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the psychology of crime, be sure to subscribe.